I was hurrying home to get here in time. I'm like, okay, because I wanted to get the email out in time too. All right, just in time to have people click and show up.
Yeah.
How's everything going?
Not too bad. That's what I've got some pretty bad it's right now, like the stream saying it's bad right now, so I'm gonna try to like figure out what's going on my end, because I know my wife or my kid's streaming something right now.
Hey guys,
how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
All right, man. There it is. Let's see if we can find out what's clogging on my bandwidth and shut it down.
Yeah, my wife and kids are at my in-laws right now. I left a little early. I'm like, oh, well, at least there won't be a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse in the background.
Yeah.
Probably some Netflix movie going. I'm like, I should be all set.
The whole new podcast for you. You'll be the one streaming in HD over there.
Yeah. Jordan, now are you the accountant as well?
No, Nick is.
Okay, Nick is. I knew.
Yeah, you guys share in misery this time of year.
Yeah. I'm still in dress clothes. I'm like, I'm gonna be a little overdressed for podcast tonight, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's why I only record halfway up. You don't see what's.
Yeah. Did y'all see the guy on
the BBC guy?
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
it's only funny because we've all had those moments.
I know, just not on international live TV.
Yeah.
Luckily, ours are like when people are watching the podcast.
And then wait, I don't know if Ryan's gonna be joining us or not. I haven't talked to him, so that's gonna be a new one for me. What the fuck? What's on? Well, worry about it later. All right. Stream says it's okay now. That'll be good enough. All right, 23 viewers on so far. And there's Carrie. We got Corm all of a sudden. He didn't want to show his face, though. Oh, there it is.
What's up, fellas?
There he is. Oh, go get that blood oath, man. We're waiting for it. There it is.
Is it worth it? I didn't ask for a sample. I saw the
press release.
Yeah, press release. But Curry, are you on Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
I use it now.
Okay.
Hey, hold that thought. Y'all do your little ding, ding, ding. Welcome to Bourbon Pursuit. I'll be right back.
All right.
Where's is Brian coming?
He says yes, can't get in. I don't know how you can't. You just literally click a button link.
I'm hearing. Is anybody else hearing the echo?
Not on my side.
Not on my side either.
Oh, I had the Twitter message open, and apparently it was open or was playing in there.
Oh.
So Mark asked, there's a store an hour away from me. They're putting out a William LaRue Weller 2016 for $199. Worth it? Yep. If you feel like driving an hour, yep, go do it. Be the first one there, because there's other people there with that same exact idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. Annabelle Rapasso asked what's on the agenda. So this is kind of going to be a it's going to kind of be, I don't know if this is going to be the end of it or not. You know, we started March doing a kind of a newbies intro, you know, kind of like a back to basics of her bourbon. So like the first one we did is a bourbon 101 and 201. Then we did one last week, which was pretty in depth with Bernie Lubbers of Heaven Hill talking nothing but bottled and bond. And then this is going to be kind of, again, a kind of a newbies thing where we've kind of neglected some of the things that we want to tell. So, you know, what was your gateway bourbon? You know, what really got you started into learning? What's the most intimidating thing about getting into this? What's the tips for the newbies? What's the tips to veterans that have been around this for a while? To kind of act towards newbies and stuff like that too. So, but with that, let's get Brian another minute or two, and then I'll tell him that we're at max bandwidth. We can't fit anymore.
I just opened the Blood Oath Pack 3 while we talk, just so everybody knows. This is a live review of Blood.
Is that a plastic bottle, or is it a plastic cap on a glass bottle?
It's plastic cap, plastic bottle. Hang on, I'm gonna plug in my Ethernet cable so it's a little better reception here.
Oh, there's Ryan.
Oh, there's Ryan.
Full house.
All right. Sorry. I figured Blake would be late, so I thought I could be late.
You've got to earn that right by being consistently late.
Is it just me, or does Blake sound like he's cracking or breaking up?
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, it sounds like a robot.
Yeah.
Blake, try dropping off and getting back on if you can.
Netflix.
Said it's the one night his family's out of town. It's just him, so he was like, I shouldn't have any problems.
How's everyone?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Doing well. March Madness, best time of the year.
Exactly.
Those 16 seeds going at it, man. This makes for some intense basketball tonight.
Yeah, it's like a high school game.
You would think with my track record, I would have scheduled this recording for tomorrow night.
Yeah, right during the. Well, no, they play Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
everything.
While we're waiting, do you want first impressions of Blood Oath 3?
Go for it.
Tastes the exact same as 1 and 2.
What? Fred Minnick said it was the next God's gift to us.
This is a waste of money every day, all day long.
Just depends on what kind of box it comes in this time.
How's that?
Sounds better.
Sounds
Good.
Cool.
I think I still had the comments open in YouTube. So.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me. Oh yeah, I'll give you all the chat link for the comments are right there.
Sweet.
This is really sad. It makes me sad how bad. I was all excited because Fred said that Pack 3 was so much better, and it tastes the same as 1 and 2. It's the exact same flavor profile. It just tastes like young whiskey.
Have they
Are you
said
just
where they
saying that to
sourced
throw
that
us off?
from? Was that a Heaven Hill source?
Sourced from Uranus, like
Wow, if that face could be a review rating. Holy cow.
it's gross. Why do you have to mix? I mean, so I get it, right? You have 1,000 barrels of 4-year-old rye, and you've got 100 barrels of 8-year-old rye, and you've got 10 barrels of 12-year-old rye, and you want to make a lot of a product, like 40,000 bottles, so you can sell it. So I get you got to blend it together, but it's just the young always takes the youngest bourbon or rye always takes the flavor profile and dominates it.
Yeah. It's like, chefs say if you take an over-seasoned ingredient and mix it with an under-seasoned ingredient, you don't get a perfectly seasoned, you get an under-seasoned item. That younger just always sticks out for some reason.
It really does. It's just the immature taste that takes over.
All right, we're gonna give Brian like 2 more minutes, and then we're just gonna say, "Sorry, man, we tried waiting."
Sorry, Brian, you're dead to us.
Look at Michael.
Yeah.
Shout out to him logging in from the hospital to catch this roundtable.
Congratulations,
Hold
Mr.
on.
Michael.
Yeah.
How are y'all?
Congratulations.
Cheers to
day.
you with something better than Blood Oath.
How are y'all seeing the comments?
Yeah, where are they at?
We clicked the link.
I just
And then
gave you the
they're
link in the group chat right there. You can look at them all. It should just pop out a window for the comments.
Recent.
That's awesome. Good for you, Mike.
Did anyone else get a hold on, where's the link for just the chat?
You'll see it on the right there under group chat.
Oh, jeez, I'm an idiot. Never mind.
You got to be smart.
See that link right there?
Yeah.
I missed it too, Blake. Don't worry.
I'm looking in the Twitter message.
Through Twitter.
Got it. We're good. Did anybody else get a decades sample wild turkey?
I did not.
No.
I'm supposed to be getting a
Anybody tried it?
Bottle.
I'm supposed to be getting a full bottle sent to me.
Yeah,
Nice.
I got a bottle, and so I had gotten a sample of it like back in July or something.
So when they were first, yeah.
It was. Did you try it?
No.
Like, they've did some revamping, blending.
Really?
Because the final product's actually pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was really good. But whenever I tried the sample, I don't know if maybe they confused like Jacob's Ghost or something with what's that Beam one that's like it was like
It was
just
terrible.
bad. Yeah, it was
Wow.
Because they
bad.
got a lot of bad reviews at first, and then
I believe it. Because
Final
I was just
good.
like a point of what until it's released, why am I even gonna write about it? Because it's just gonna be so bad. But then I got the bottle. I'm like, man, stuff's pretty good actually. It's a little better Master's Keep, but it'll probably still sit on the shelves.
Have y'all had the Russell's 98?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great bourbon.
Yeah, I had it this
that one
weekend
was-
the first time. Gosh, it was awesome.
It's a great bourbon.
Mhm.
I actually passed on 2 of those because I was able to get 2 bottles of it, and then I was like, man, it's kind of expensive. I don't know if people would really trade for it. And then I tried it and was like, oh, geez, I wish I would have just
Yeah.
tried it first and grabbed every bottle I could.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I enjoyed it. Carrie's Closet.
Gotta find freaking Brian's email real quick and send this to him, and then that's it. You know what it is off the top of their head?
Are we going to give it out over the, we
Yeah.
are live here. We got, how many people do we have on?
Oh, just 44. We're in good company.
Yeah.
However, I've seen that like there's almost like 700 or 800 people actually watch this at some point. It has about that many views. So, all right,
Raking in the ad revenue.
right. You know, the ad revenue comes from like when our kids watch those stupid, ridiculous videos on YouTube and they have like 4 million hits, and you're like, how the fuck does that even happen?
Does anybody else's kid watch the surprise eggs on YouTube?
Oh yeah, surprise eggs and like
At first, I'm like, what the heck is this video? And then it literally has 20 million views from somebody opening up this little egg with a toy inside and with a Paw Patrol character. What in the world is this?
Yep.
I haven't graduated from Sesame Street yet.
Oh man, just wait. Like, I thought my kid was gonna be the weird kid who only watched surprise eggs on YouTube. Apparently, there's millions of other of them.
Yeah, you're not alone there, man. It's weird.
I think my dog ran away, so if you see me going this way, my dog in the woods a little bit.
I swear, I've got an email from him, but
Let's get rolling, man, because I got to get me some.
Yeah,
Good call.
me too.
All right. Well, as soon as he comes through, I'll try to do it in the background.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do it. Let's kind of get rolling. Welcome to another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit Podcast. Kenny and Ryan here tonight, and we are in our third, and it might be the last of the newbies here, or the newbie month, or back to basics month that we've kind of coined, getting back into this. Ryan, kind of give everybody a background of what we've done this month in the past 2 podcasts and what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Damn, put me on the spot to remember. No, so we've had Tim and Bernie Lubbers on, and we've had 2 great episodes on kind of how bourbon's made, the foundations of it, and then Bernie, drilled us with Bottle and Bond. Gosh, that was a in-depth episode. It was great. It kind of got me a little excited about bourbon again. I'm kind of feeling it again. I'm getting back into the game.
Yeah, because like I said, we were losing here for a little bit. You talked about rum a lot.
I know I was getting on the vino, the rum, but I'm getting excited about bourbon again.
You did kind of sound a little bit like Blake sometimes because you're like, oh, I had this great Bordeaux, and no, it had to be.
Pinkies up, Blake.
There you go.
Don't hate on the wine game.
So with that, let's go ahead and we'll talk about what we got going on. So this is our 7th community roundtable. By now, most people have probably heard of it, but what we do, we got a panel list of pretty well-known bloggers and pundits that are in the area, and or should I say maybe the realm of bourbon, if you will. And we do this live on YouTube. So if you haven't had a chance, make sure you follow all these people that are on here, and we sent out the link so you can actually sit here and watch this happening live. We also have people that are chimed in. We've got almost 40 people right now that are just on and just chatting away with us and going to answer questions as we go along here. So before we kind of get started and we dive into this, and we're going to start again talking about newbies and kind of introduction back into bourbon and kind of what started all for us. Give everybody kind of an idea of who you are, where do you blog, where do you tweet, all that good stuff. Started with you, Blake.
I'm Blake from Bourboner, bourboner.com/blog, and then all the social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you just type in Bourboner, that's bourbon with an R on the end, you'll be able to find me.
I'm
Keep it
fighting
clean,
it.
Carrie.
I'm fighting it. My name is Carrie, and I run a blog called Suburbia. You might have read a great article last time I wrote about 6 months ago. There's a lot of them on the website. I encourage you to take a look at it. I am on Twitter at bourbon_gamer, and I'm also a member of the Bourbon R Facebook group, which you might have heard has become the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I'm on there.
That's the rumor.
There's a new message every 10 minutes, so it's hard to keep up with every game.
I mean, you can't keep up with Bourbon R. So I stopped trying, and now I'm just at a point where I have realized that I love bourbon and I love rye and I love whiskey and I love talking about it. Not so much writing about it, but don't stop following me, because once in a while I'm going to have somebody else write a blog article for me.
Ghost Riders, right? That's where it starts.
Yep.
Hey, this is Jordan from Breaking Bourbon, one of 3 guys that runs the website. We do reviews, articles, and our daily release calendar. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Breaking Bourbon, and you can also sign up for our newsletter that comes out monthly.
Awesome. So thank you guys once again for joining on this and sharing your thoughts. Later on, we might have Brian Hara from Sippin' Corn join in. He's had some technical difficulties. Somebody always has technical difficulties on here, but thankfully everybody made it through this time. So let's kind of get it cracking and kind of get it started. And what was your gateway bourbon? Like, what started it for you all that said, like, oh, okay, like I can stomach this a little bit. Don't start it off to say like, oh, I had Jim Beam White Label and then I puked everywhere and I had a horrible experience. But like, what was it that got you back into it? And it looks like Carrie wants to go first.
Yeah, thanks. That'd be great. So Eagle Rare, standard Eagle Rare, is the bourbon that not only got me into bourbon, but got 3 of my good buddies who the 4 of us actually started a bourbon society. Eagle Rare was the bourbon that gatewayed us all into bourbon. I remember the first time I tried it thinking, this is more amazing than anything I tried in college with Coke. I actually think I'm just going to put an ice cube or 2 in a cup and drink this. And it's still almost to this day when I try Eagle Rare, there's like a nostalgic feeling to it that I have. I can say without a doubt, Eagle Rare is what converted me into a fan of bourbon and realizing there's more out there than Jim Beam.
Jordan,
Yeah, sure. So mine's simple, right? So mine's Woodford. This was way back when, before I really knew anything about bourbon, but it just, to me, it did. It tasted good. I've since well moved on from Woodford, but that was what got me moving away from just mixing bourbon with Coke and just drinking it straight and just opened up my eyes to the world of bourbon, which, hey, kudos to them for at least getting me into the world. Don't really visit them too much, but it's it worked well for me.
Awesome. Blake?
Yeah, for me, I was trying to think back. It was probably, I was going to say Blanton's, but then I started thinking about it more, maybe even Wild Turkey Rare Breed, because I felt like that was one where it was, more than just alcohol at that point. I'd tried other few, but then I just remember sitting down with Rare Breed one time and like thinking, wow, there's a lot of different flavors in this. And it's funny because all of these are probably bourbons we don't go to as much now, but that one for me is still really good and really opened my eyes to bourbon.
What about you, Ryan?
you know, growing up around it, there's really no gateway. You just kind of, you just get it.
thrown into it.
It's a floodgate, yeah.
But I guess what got me from, you know, just getting shit-faced with it and mixing it with a Coke, my dad had two bottles. He had a Lizer Craig 21 year and a Noah's Mill 15. And those were my first two, like, neat pours. And that's kind of what got me into the special releases and stuff. So I feel bad that I drank those because now they're, gosh, worth knows how what. But sorry, Dad.
You know, for me, it all started back off in college when we were drinking Kentucky Tavern every single day, and every once in a while I switched to a VOB. But I can think that what really turned me on, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I've been drinking bourbon for since college nonstop for like 15 years now, right? At least once a day, it always helps take the edge off. But I would think that the one that really kind of opened my eyes up where I started trying to venture out and to do more things was when I started, I had Four Roses small batch the first time. I think that was the one that kind of did it for me. You know, I was doing a little bit of Old Forester, stuff like that. But, you know, when I would only have something that, you know, required just a little bit of water or just a rock or just an ice cube or something like that, or heck, just on the rocks at that point, right? I mean, everybody knows the gradual progression of a bourbon drinker. I know Blake's got a good diagram on his site that kind of has the caveman that, and then, you know, you start off mixing with Coke and then you're off to a human where you're actually just drinking it neat. But that was the one that kind of started it for me. You know, it looks like some people are chiming in. This Jason Wayne said it was Rock Hill Farms for him. Mark Dunaway was Bullet Rye. Greg Bonder was Buffalo Trace, and he actually had it for his first time while in Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Kyle Anderson, Blanton's. It seems like people talk about Blanton's a lot on here. Another gateway that was kind of surprising, Chris Walker said Belle Meade. You know, I've actually never thought about having Belle Meade as the gateway because that's sort of an expensive bottle, right? I mean, it's like $40-$50, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had never heard of Belle Meade till recently. I think there's the gateway into bourbon, and there's the grown-up bourbon or whiskey that you have. For me, it was Gentleman Jack. I remember before I was into bourbon, but after college, when I would travel, you know, or be at a hotel, I was at a job that I traveled all the time. I would always order Gentleman Jack, and that was the first bourbon or whiskey that I could have with just ice. And I think everybody remembers the transitional bourbon, not just the one that leaps them into bourbon as a hobby, but the one where they're like, okay, maybe this isn't just a pour in a plastic cup with a bunch of Coca-Cola. Maybe this is something that the taste is actually really good. There's this caramel, this smokiness to it. And I think Gentleman Jack for me was my first transitional bourbon that I had before Eagle Rare.
I think that's one that kind of gets overlooked is the Jack Daniel's line with Gentleman Jack, and I actually like their Jack Daniel's single barrel.
Rightfully so.
Really good.
Yeah. But nobody talks about it. And, you know, I mean, you could make the defense that we don't talk about it because they try to set themselves up as a Tennessee whiskey. You know, it's mass produced, but a lot of this stuff is mass produced. Yeah. And, you know, some of the single barrel and Gentleman Jack releases are probably in smaller batches than, I don't know, maybe not like maybe some Heaven Hill stuff at least.
Yeah.
Or Four Roses Yellow Label. I don't know, that could be close. But I had that discussion with someone the other day, and it was like, yeah, it just gets ignored because it's Jack Daniel's.
Well, the Tennessee whiskey, I think, in general, just gets ignored. But it essentially, besides the maple chips that it goes over, it's the same thing. Right?
Well, and they wear Hunter Orange too. It's awful.
It's all barrel aged stuff. So I think,
as a Florida fan, I can agree with that. So
yeah, I mean, I think there is a negativity towards Jack Daniel's and for that matter, Dickel. But I'll be honest, man, I've had old Dickel in my mouth that was just as good as.
They come out right.
He's been sitting on that joke for a while.
Been saving that one.
Yeah,
he has. So, Blake, I'll kind of pass this one over to you because you're the only one who had a gateway bourbon that was barrel proof, right? Because it seems like a lot of people that were even putting in the comments. I mean, there's so many people that said Eagle Rare. Brian Durbin said Old Granddad Bottle and Bond. But you're the only one who kind of talked and went directly to like a a barrel proof. So why do you think that was your gateway versus everybody else that was kind of starting with something that was around the 90 to 100 proof range?
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm trying to think. I know Rare Breed right now is at like 113 or something with the latest batch. So, man, it wasn't that high. You know, it wasn't what most people, I've seen if I know I have some 98 here somewhere. It wasn't what most people think of as barrel proof these days, kind of that 120 plus. But it was definitely with ice, and that was probably a year or two into drinking the standards of Maker's Mark, maybe a little bit of like Beam Black Label and that kind of stuff, but it was still mixing it here and there, maybe drink it on the rocks here and there. But that one was just like, man, there was just so much more flavor in that one, the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, than anything else I had drank. And that was just kind of eye-opening to me. So, and I think it's still a good option. People kind of forget it's been barrel proof for a long time and it's available on most shelves.
So I guess a good question I'll throw to you, Carrie. So if somebody is getting into bourbon and you say like, oh, I'm gonna show you some good stuff. I mean, do you think the right thing to do is just go ahead and start throwing barrel proof stuff at their face, or you think it's something that they need to ease into, or they're just really not going to like whatever it is that they're tasting?
Yeah. So the first time when I first got into bourbon, I remember my birthday was November of 2014. We were at Chopped Steakhouse. And I had mainly stuck with Eagle Rare, low proof, and I ordered a William LaRue Weller that they had just gotten in. I think it was like $22 for 2-ounce pour, and I can't remember the proof of 2014, but high enough that I should have known better. And I ordered one ice cube with it, and I was like, oh, I'm all big shot. I'm into bourbon. Here's my William LaRue Weller, and I'm swirling it around, and I take a sip, and I choked on it so strong. And it burned my throat, and I was just sick I remember I had like a sore throat for 3 days because it was so painful. So when people come over now to my house and they're not big into bourbon and they want to try stuff, I go for the low proof because you want to experience the oaky profile of an aged bourbon, the softness. You don't want to overpower them. I think it takes time to work your way up to where barrel proof really is. You come to realize the barrel proof has the full flavor. But for people who are starting out, you see that barrel proof stuff, I would shy away from it. Even with ice cubes melting it down, there's still a harshness to it that you can't overcome unless you are totally watered down. So I feel like if somebody's going to come over, they're just getting into bourbon or they're getting into rye, I'm going to give them some low proof 20+ year stuff to introduce them to the great oaky flavor that you get with some of this stuff.
Mark Dunaway says that's when you break out the basil.
Right. Yeah.
And
I remember, basil was one of my first. Yeah, like, because it's so approachable and so easy on the palate. Like Tim said in our episode, he's like, anybody that's new to bourbon, 80 proof is going to be hot to them, So you can't just blow them away. And I made the mistake. I had a friend who was just getting bourbon, and hell, I was giving him Willets and, all that. And he's like, God, this is so hot. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, well, he's never had it before. So, yeah, definitely a newbie needs like an 80 to 86, to kind of ease the palate into it.
Yeah.
You gotta get the like digestive tract smoothed down so that you're not burning. He's probably sitting on his pillow that night with the worst heartburn of his life. They say Kentucky Hug for a reason, right? Like it's there and it's noticeable. So you got to start. That's why the Eagle Rare to me is a perfect gateway bourbon. It's $30. It's 90 proof. It's 10 years old. I think that to me that's like the perfect combination of everything you're looking for in a bourbon.
Yeah, that's a good one. And like, I also, if people are going for, something like that, a good $20, $30 bourbon, maybe 35, I encourage people who are getting into it, add some ice too. Like you want to get into this, you probably haven't been used to drinking just straight alcohol, right? Maybe you've been doing rum and cokes or like mixed vodka drinks, stuff like that, or even mixed bourbon cocktails. Like add ice, water it down just so you can start getting a hint of that flavor and then start pulling back from there until you're finishing your bottle with no ice. This way they're at least bought in versus, because if you burn your throat, if you, just have a bad reaction 1 or 2 times, you're not going to try stuff and then you're just going to get turned off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you need at least a year to start drinking neat. You know, and people who just want to come in and act like it just burns up your mouth if you're not used to it, even at the 86 proof. And then you're not tasting anything if your taste buds are all burnt up. So, you know, I think you kind of need that weaning period of going from mixed to just ice to splash water to, and you need to taste a bunch of different things to realize, oh, this is why this is different and better. It tastes different. You know, if you just jump straight into drinking Pappy or something, you probably don't really appreciate it because you don't know what other stuff tastes like. Right. So,
well, and the nice thing too with ice is like you almost get like 3 different drinks, like because you get when you first pour it, you're kind of getting like the neat taste, and then as the ice melts, you get a little bit chill, and then when it's watered down, you kind of get it, you know, as it would be with just water. So it's kind of neat to kind of see how it tastes different as it progresses. You know, the ice melts too.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, they say you should have a nice bourbon with a glass of at least 1 cube to kind of open up the flavors of it, right? A lot of people will say flavors open up with a little bit of water. Freddie over at Buffalo Trace, you know, the awesome tour guide, will say
Freddie's great.
Put 1 ice cube in there, let the taste open up. So I think there is, you know, a little bit to just kind of opening up a bourbon that's been sitting in a bottle for a while.
You know, I think it would do us a disservice if we didn't even mention Maker's Mark as a part of this, only because of who they are, the recognition you have on the shelf, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can say that they've gotten their gateway into bourbon because of the Maker's Mark, just because they see it on the shelf and it just has a kind of a staple to it.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we'll move. Since we're on this kind of bottle question, I'll kind of push this over onto you. So what do you think are like the must bottles that you must have, like as kind of like a new person getting into this? I know it's a broad question, but if you were going to start with like 5 bottles, like what are those 5 bottles you start with? And Ryan, I'll push it over to you. I'll put you on the spot first.
All right. To me, you got to have Evan Williams single barrel. For me, is a staple. I think it's just a good entry everyday bourbon, 86 proof. It's got a ton of caramel, vanilla flavors. I mean, it's real easy drinker. Second, I would say probably with the wheated bourbon, like oh, hey, got a visitor.
He made it.
Sipping corn.
So Brian finally made it to the show.
I think I made it.
You think you did? Welcome.
Well, it's still hit or miss, maybe. Sorry, I'm late, guys.
No worries. Okay.
Yeah, man.
We'll edit you. We'll edit you into here.
Excellent.
So Ryan, we'll kind of start yours over just a little bit, and then I'll splice it together, and then we'll introduce Brian.
Okay. Second, I think you got to get a wheated bourbon. I like Old Fitz. Regular, or I mean Old Fitz like bottle and bond, or if you can only get the 86 proof, I like that to have as a wheated bourbon, just to kind of see the contrast between a rye bourbon and a rye or a wheated whiskey. And then third, I would get a rye whiskey like Sazerac rye is if you can find it at $30, that's a great rye whiskey to have. Fourth, I would probably have like Johnny Drum as a higher proof, kind of. You know, there's more cinnamon, more bang. You're going to get a lot more flavors out of that than the other 3. And then fifth, I'd probably get a barrel proof like a Booker's or a Elijah Craig barrel proof, or a younger aged Willet or something like that. Those are my B5 I would get.
Pretty good. Pretty much round that out. So while you were talking there, we actually had Brian join the show. So Brian, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thanks, guys. Good to be back.
All right. So we'll let you close out here in a little bit. So we're asking, what are the top 5 bottles you have to have for a newbie? I'll let you think about that one and speak on that one for a little bit, Brian. So we'll move over to Jordan. What do you think?
Sure. So we actually plug for Breaking Bourbon, right? So we do our best of like 20 of 30 bourbons, best of 30 of 40, best of 40 of 50. I'm kind of in line, like me and the guys put a lot of thought behind this. So if I were to pick 5 out of them, like varying price ranges, right, I'd probably do any year Evan Williams single barrel, right? Big fan of that. They're usually pretty good, pretty inexpensive for what they are, right? Another one would be a Henry McKenna single barrel. Eagle Rare. I throw on a Makers just to make sure you get your a variation of a wheat in there too, and that you can compare and contrast against some other wheaters that are in this list, right? Old Granddad 114, right? Solid buy. These are all like solid buys. So if you want to try something a little bit higher in proof, but you really don't want to pull out your taste buds with like 120 plus proof bourbon, something to eventually work your way up to, right? And then a Four Roses single barrel, just to start seeing like a true flavor variation. A lot of single barrels in that list, but for the most part, pretty accessible by a lot of people out there, and pretty value conscious too, right? So everything there is usually under 40 bucks if you're shopping around. A good way to start your collection without spending a ton of money, and then seeing what you like, and then as you start spending more money, honing in your flavor profile and going from there, right? The worst thing I hate seeing is when people start off, they buy like super expensive bottles for themselves, right? They'll go out and spend like $100 plus on a few different bottles, and it just makes no sense, right? You don't even know if you're gonna like bourbon. First, dial in your flavor profile, and then go after what you really want, and then spend all you want.
At that point, yeah.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of good suggestions on here. I mean, DeProof said you kind of can start off with 5 different things. You know, you got to start off with a wheater, a high rye, a bottle and bond, a rye whiskey, and then a barrel proof or something that's overproofed, right? So you kind of get the gamut of a full different, a few different things.
That's what I gave.
Yeah, and then another way to kind of look at this is like, do you start and try to get one from each distillery? You know, you go Buffalo Trace, get one from Wild Turkey, get your Russell's Reserve, then you move over to Heaven Hill, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely a lot of ways to take this. Like, Blake, what do you think's the best way to kind of go at it?
I say just take out a loan and get the 5 bottles from the antique collection at whatever cost. They've set those 5 bottles up for a reason. Just every secondary market you can find, go there, buy the bottle. And no, I mean, I'm basically just going to reiterate everything that everyone else has said. Find that, I call it like the bourbon buffet. So find a wheated, probably Maker's Mark. Find a high rye, maybe Four Roses. Old Granddad kind of falls into that as well. And then I like Buffalo Trace. Four Roses Small Batch is another great one. If you want to spend a little bit more, Blanton's is always good. And I think just figuring out why you're tasting different things. So maybe get 2 bourbons from the same mash bill and same distillery. Try that, and then just start to go by age. Okay, this is a 6-year bourbon. What's it taste like? Find something that's a little bit older, like an Eagle Rare, which is 10-year.
There's ages on labels.
If you look hard enough. But that's my suggestion.
Brian, we'll ask you. So what do you think is anything that we haven't beaten a horse to death with?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've listening to you guys, I sort of had the same ideas. You've got to make sure you figure out what you like first, and don't blow your money on limited editions right away. I think the progression is to find those 5, and my list is a lot of what you guys already said. I've got the wheated with Maker's Mark. For Four Roses, I think you can try any of the 3, from yellow label to small batch to single barrel. I've got Elijah Craig on mine, Blanton's. And then the one I had that I didn't hear you guys say was, go ahead and try the Old Bardstown 4-year bottled and bond.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Willett's got some really good stuff coming out.
Kentucky, sure.
Yeah.
It's affordable, and I can get it. So see if you guys can get it. And then
Kentucky
my recommendation.
Forget the rest of the country.
Yeah,
that's right. Then work your way up. Go to the gift shops if you're in the state, or if you can't do that, find some of the private barrels from some of the stores, and a lot of the good ones will let you try it first. They'll have a little bar set up that you can try their private selections, and then hone your taste in that way, and then work your way up to get into Total Wine or Liquor Barn at 4 a.m. to try to win the lottery.
Well, before we get into the things that are tips to like don't do as a newbie, we'll get into that one a little bit. So, Carrie, anything else to add on this topic before we move on?
Thank you. First off, you need to get a Michter's 20. Everybody needs to have one in your collection. You need to have one. You need to have a Pappy 20. Forget the 23. It's overrated. It's over-oaked. You need to have a Pappy 20. No, my only suggestion is to new people who, and this goes to the people beyond who are probably following this podcast, but to the new people who go into Total Wine, I'm going to see shelves, huge displays of bourbon that are like Buckhorn or names that are private barrel that are made exclusively for Total Wine or Liquor Barn. Go to another smaller store and see if they have the same product. If they don't have the same product, do not buy that. Do not put it on your shelf, because that is a private barrel, probably crap bourbon, most likely, a crap bourbon. Just do a little bit of research before you fill your bar. Make sure that what you're buying is a product that is a national distribution or at least a regional distribution, and not something that is private barrel. I can't tell you how many times I've been in Total Wine and people ask for recommendations, and Total Wine recommends their private label stuff that is made by TerraPure or whatever it is. So just do your homework, and at a minimum, get an Eagle Rare, get a Maker's Mark, and get a Sazerac Rye. If you can't find Sazerac Rye, spend a little bit more and get a Pikesville Rye, which can be found everywhere.
That's a great one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And go from there.
And avoid it if it's got a horse on it, except for Blanton's.
Yes. Chestnut Hill
Having
Farm.
a horse is a bad sign.
Yeah.
Marketing 101 right there. So the other thing that was pretty interesting that Thunder Chicken put on here, it says, how about a Japanese variant? Which honestly, it might be something that, you might waste four bottles of bourbon and not really like it. And then you're all of a sudden like, oh shit, like I really like the Japanese stuff more, which suits us perfectly fine. That'd be fine if you just moved.
Yes, that's the more that want to switch over to Japanese whiskey, the better. So
So Carrie kind of started us getting, tips for newbies, and stuff like that. But, before I get into tips for newbies, I kind of want to pose a question to you all, because we were all new at this at some point, right? So what did you think was the most intimidating thing when you first started getting into bourbon, or, trying to figure out, steer your way? I mean, I can tell you right now, the most intimidating thing for me when I started joining forums was understanding acronyms. OGD, like what the hell does OGD stand for? WLW, like what, all this sort of stuff, right? So a lot of that stuff was the intimidating thing for me. So I'll pass it over to whoever wants to chime in first.
I'll go first.
Lead off
I don't
tonight.
think anything really is intimidating. I think that the problem that you have with bourbon is that, to me, it's kind of like rungs of a ladder. And it was a question that was asked on Reddit, and it was like, how did you become for all of you who consider yourself masters of bourbon, how did you become a master? I don't think there's mastery of any of this. I think that there are simply rungs on a ladder, right? And we climb up a ladder as we go. The more we learn, the higher we climb on the ladder. But what sucks is that we look down on the people who are on the rungs below us, and it just drives us freaking crazy, because we were at that point somewhere along the line. And we look down upon those people and say, you've got to be freaking kidding me. The guy who says, I posted an article about the 4-grain, E.H. Taylor 4-grain, and the guy says, where am I going to be able to find some of this? That was probably me before I really got into bourbon. And so I, bite my tongue, and I really want to say, in a store that gets it. But you can't, because you lose appreciation for the fact that you were on that level before. You were that newbie before. So I think the intimidation doesn't come from outside sources. It comes from people who are higher up, who are looking at you like, God, screw this newbie. They're such a noob, and they're asking dumb questions. But then deep down, we know that we ask those same questions at some point. So I think, to me, that's where the intimidation comes from, is not the stores and not the products. It comes from the people who know bourbon, who aren't as willing to share that info without making you feel like crap first.
Yeah, Chase said, like, trying to avoid the hype is the thing that he finds most intimidating, because I think for a new person getting into this, it kind of is hard, when you get people like us, and you got bloggers on the scene, and what's the thing that's news? Oh, it's limited releases, right? So always trying to stay off the hype train of always searching for those things is probably pretty intimidating as well.
Yeah, I'll go. Mine's probably less philosophical than Carrie's.
Deep is the word you're looking for.
Deep, exactly. You talk about acronyms. I still don't understand what CONUS and popcorn means. I'm still lost. But I think it's like you said, it's FOMO. Like you have the fear of missing out on all this stuff, and it's like you feel like you got to go get everything, and then when you don't, it's such a disappointment, and you're like, well, this sucks, and then it's just that's the hardest part of getting into it is you're trying to get to that upper ladder that carries on, but you're at the bottom, and it's frustrating getting those bottles and stuff. So that for me was the tough part.
Mine's one that actually I still probably have it to this day sometimes, right? And it's when people ask me what bourbon they should buy or like what bourbon they should buy as a gift. I'm always like, oh crap, I know a ton of bourbons, I know everything I like. This person's just getting into bourbon. They're going to buy like one bottle. If they don't like it, they're probably not going to do it again. And it's such a hard way to be like, well, what type of alcohol do you like? I drink mixed drinks, or like I drink wine, but I really want to get into bourbon. What do you recommend? It's like, and I have no idea what you're going to like, but here's a bunch that I like. Hopefully one that I just threw out based on like the limited knowledge set that you have of drinking alcohol, like hard, straight alcohol is something you're going to like. And it's always like this fear of like, did I do the right thing? Are they going to like this? It's so much pressure that it's constantly still this day when people ask me, I'm like, let's drink a lot of bourbon. It's going to be hard recommending something for you, but here you go.
Jordan,
I love telling them that.
Before y'all all can go, I'm just going to say from now on for the end of time, is whenever someone asks you that, you're going to send a link to this podcast, and then first 30 minutes, and it's going to answer everything they want to know about bourbon.
Here you go.
No need to respond. Just send this.
That's right. Just send this.
I'll just print out a piece of paper. Here you go.
Watch the first 30 minutes, and you're good.
That's funny. Yeah, for me, I feel like the biggest intimidation was walking into stores and just you see so many different things on the shelves. It's like, man, where do I even start? Like, I'm on a limited budget with this stuff. I don't want to miss something that's really good. What if I walk in and, this was actually a great bourbon that I should have tried, and instead I picked up this crappy bottle. And I remember just standing in stores for 30 minutes, Googling on my phone, okay, what do I want? Just try to figure it out. And I think that's why you see so many of the posts now in all the Facebook groups of how is this, or is this worth picking up? And that's where people, sometimes I think they're just kind of fishing for, hey, how much, or how is this, meaning can I resell this for like $500 or something? But a lot of times it's just, they really want to know, like, hey, look, I'm looking to spend $50. I have a few options. Where do I spend my money?
Well, you'll even see that on your own Facebook group, Blake. Like, it's not like people are posting limited bottles. It's like they're picking up like a $30 bottle, and it's the first time they've been in a liquor store seeing them. They're like, "Oh, is this good?" It's like,
yeah.
How many times can people ask?
Now have a Facebook group to go to. They've got
that's what the search feature is for.
They just go to Bourbon R and they say, "Is this a good bourbon?" And they send out people to respond to them. So.
Just if you're reading this, feel free to come in, drop that picture. Nothing else. Don't contribute to the group at all. Just drop a picture. Should I buy this? And be welcomed with warm and loving
open arms.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian, what were you saying before I interjected there?
Well, yeah, I was saying go ahead and send those people to me because I'm happy to give my opinion on what they should buy first. But what intimidated me is when I didn't like something that was supposed to be good. Everybody and their brother says this is the best thing to get. I just went and dropped 5 years ago $90 on it or something, and I try it and I don't like it, and I think, well, shit, am I doing this wrong? What do I need to do?
Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah. Do I need to do hyper aeration, or do I need to, what do I need to do to this to like it? And that's when you learn sometimes you don't like a 23-year-old Elijah Craig because you might as well gnaw on a banister. So, everyone's got their own palate, and you got to get that past that intimidation of learning to like what you like and being fine with it.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been a continual thing coming up in the chat, John Dunn said, FOMO is a real thing in this crazy hobby. It seems that like everybody kind of latches on, and Mark Dunaway had another good suggestion that said, trust your palate and trust what you like, listen to people I wouldn't say, I don't want to say listen to us because, we're considered.
No, I'm going to say
I don't
listen
know
to
anything.
us,
Whatever,
and us
but
only.
but basically the moral was like, don't follow blindly, right? I mean, it's a lot easy for you to see somebody post something on a review on Facebook that said, this is a 10 out of 10 or 98 out of 100 or whatever kind of scoring algorithm you want to get to it. And then all of a sudden you kind of create this fake panic about what could be out there. And so I can definitely see if people that just get into it and just because one person says it's good, then everybody's immediately going to go out and, just flock to it only because of just what that one person said.
I like Andy's comment says most intimidating thing is knowing what to say when my wife finds a receipt.
Good comment. That was
good. Or once she opens the guest bedroom closet and it's like, where did the liquor store come from?
Absolutely. And then, Michael Urado said, for him, it was more about education, right? Deciphering distilleries, looking at NDPs, understanding that, who exactly made what. And then I saw somebody else had commented, they say, I wish that distilleries like on the back of Elijah Craig or Henry McKenna, it would say like, from Heaven Hill. But instead, you have to learn the DSPKYs and you have to learn all this sort of stuff to actually understand, where this all comes from. Because at the end of the day, it is just a really good marketing scheme by a lot of the companies out there.
Yeah, some of the labels are like hieroglyphics, trying to figure out where all this shit comes from. It's crazy to me that like they have so much restriction on bottled and bond and like what bourbon is, but the labels,
I think we'll start to see some of that go away. I mean, you think about even Pappy says made at the old Rip Van Winkle distillery, and Old Charter says made at the Old Charter distillery. Blanton says made at the A.H. Blanton. Well, that one may not say it, but that just seems to be the popular thing, how it was always done until in the last 5 or 6 years, people really started trying to call distilleries out on this. And I think we'll see more and more transparency on the label the next few years, hopefully at least.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Blake, reading these comments right now.
So with that, we'll kind of move on a little bit because I think, we're getting into some of the tip sections for newbies, and I kind of want to keep going with that. So what tips would you give to a newbie getting into this hobby? And Chase Smith says that you need to go out and buy every orphan barrel.
I don't disagree. That's a pretty good idea.
So kind of what's your tip for a newbie that's getting into this, whether you shouldn't do exactly what Blake said before and go into a store, buy a bottle of bourbon and do a shot and post it on the form and say like, did I make a good decision? Or what's this worth, right? Like we know those are kind of getting back into Carrie's top 10 annoying things in the bourbon world. But, what are those tips for newbies that you think that is a kind of a good intro to say, this is where you need to start. These are the mistakes you shouldn't do, so on and so forth.
I'm going to go first. For a change.
Every time.
Stop relying on other people to get stuff for you. Stop posting stuff like, oh man, I'm never going to see a bottle like this. Will you let me know if you have any extras? Like, stop relying on other people. Build a relationship with a store that is close to you. Spend money in the store. Get to know the people at the store. Put your work in to acquire the rare bottles, and you'll get the rare bottles. Stop relying on somebody else. Stop trying to be like the luckiest guy on the planet who hits up and calls every store on the planet and finally hits the one store that has a bottle sitting there and will hold it for you. Do the work, and it will pay off over time. If you are loyal to a store, they will be loyal to you. And if they're not, switch stores. That's it. Period.
Newbie question. Bourbon millennials.
All right, Carrie, this is a newbie question for you. So if I'm going to follow your advice and I need to go and I need to spend money at a store, how much money is how much money I have to spend to be able to get me on a certain list? Or what do I have to say to the store owner to be able to try to get in good with them?
I have a friend who has not spent a ton of money. He just goes in once a week, picks up either beer or a cheaper bottle of bourbon. He talks with the store owner all the time. He's been doing this for about a year, not a tremendous amount of time. Just getting to know the store owner, knows that he is a loyal customer. He's going to come back. And he said, will you put me down on the list for the 4 grain? And the owner said, you're first one that I'll call. And this is a store that a lot of people go to, but he goes in, like I said, once a week, doesn't even spend a ridiculous amount of money. He just talks to either the liquor manager or the store owner and builds a relationship with the store. It doesn't require you to buy a ton of bourbon or booze every time you go in.
Because I mean, there was actually a thread today on the Bourbon R group of saying, "Oh, I've spent $3,000 at this one store last year," and he said that, you know, I'm not on the list to get anything.
Switch stores,
and that's exactly right. I think that's the
you
easy
got to pull the chain. Yep.
Yeah, that's the easy thing to do. I had the same exact you know, realization myself one time, and you know, spent money between two different stores. One store was hooking me up, the other one wasn't. It was easy to kind of cut the cord and just give all my business to one place. And ever since then, it's been great. Now, it's not the biggest store; it's not going to get everything, but hey, they take care of me, and like to be able to share stuff with them too whenever I get stuff in. So, yeah. All right, so let's get back to tips a little bit if we want to go there.
Yeah,
Let's
I'd say
Jordan, you got one more thing.
So tips for just newbies getting into it, right? For me, it's not even like, don't even go to the store to start. Just find a good bourbon bar by you. It doesn't even need to be like, doesn't need to have a ton of high-end releases or anything like that. Just needs to have a wide variety of selection and just start drinking stuff, right? Find like a cheap bourbon bar that has a wide variety of selection and just start trying a bunch of different things. And then eventually you'll see what you like and then start going and spending money. And this way, instead of like going to a liquor store and saying, is this $30 bottle of bourbon good? And granted, $30 might not be a lot for a bottle of bourbon to a lot of folks, but you're still stuck with this bottle of bourbon if you don't like it, right? So I'd go to a bar, pay like $6-7, get your Buffalo Trace, right? Get your Woodford, work your way up, find a bar that has some Blanton, some Elmer's, stuff like that. Start trying a bunch of stuff and then start going to the store afterwards. Like that's the best advice I can give to anyone getting into bourbon, because then you get to try a ton of stuff and really figure out what you start liking, or at least like maybe what distillery you like or what few distillers you like, and then dive in from there.
Keyword was cheap there, because that get expensive fast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. You know, bourbon bars are the best way to try a lot of different stuff, and stuff you probably can't get your hands on if you're new to it. I also just suggest reading a ton. There's a lot of good information out there right now, so start reading about all the different things. Read other people's reviews, find people's reviews you like, figure out what's what. And you know, we'd all be lying if we said we don't chase limited edition releases. So make friends at stores, buy from just one specific store. You know, open the bottle in the store and give the manager a sample whenever he hooks you up with something. You know, it's kind of like, how do you be a nice person to people in just work relationships? Not like in a fake way, but you know, these guys probably want to try a lot of these bourbons too. And I found a lot of times when I ask, hey, do you want to try this? They're more than willing to like crack it open, because a lot of times people are coming in, buying the bottle and going and selling it. So if they see you're actually drinking it, they're much more inclined to give you the call next time over the guy who they think's flipping it on Craigslist. So that's some of my suggestions.
And that's a great point too. And so to piggyback on that, Blake, if you get a private barrel from somewhere, or if you're in a group that gets a barrel, go give a bottle. I mean, you'll end up with 12 bottles or whatever. Go give one to that manager. I mean, it's just a way to keep that relationship going. My other idea to add on to this, and it'll cost some money. I don't want to sound like I'm plugging the KDA, but do something like Bourbon Affair. It's such a great event that they've put together. It's in June of every year, and you get real access to all the distilleries. You get to meet the master distillers, and you can drop a lot of bank on this if you do it for the whole week. But if you just do one or two events, I mean, you get inside access to Four Roses or Wild Turkey, whichever, you know, wherever you want to go. And that's something great for the newbies who are starved to see the back of the shop. It's a great event. That's
a really good point too, because pretty much every major city has some kind of whiskey festival or something going on now. And even without going to a bar, you can taste a ton of different stuff. And, you know, obviously the Bourbon Affair has the market cornered, and you got every master distiller coming out. But some of these smaller festivals and stuff still have a good pour selection. You just may not get to see that back access. That's another good suggestion for new people. Go to these events.
Yeah. You could also on Reddit. There is a I know Bourbon or Blake loves when I mention the Reddit. But there is a board dedicated to trading samples, and not just on Reddit, but on Facebook too. So if you are interested in sample swapping, there are boards that will sell you a small sample, so you can have the bar experience in your home if you don't have a good bourbon bar nearby, or you can trade samples with new people. I did a lot when I first started out. I did a lot of sample trading on Reddit. In their Scotch swap board, and that's where I found a lot of bourbons and tried a lot of different stuff. So yeah, that and also usually local areas will have a group with meetups. I know for Atlanta we have a large group, the Atlanta Bourbon Society, and they'll have meetups, maybe once a quarter or twice a year, and that's a good place to get together and try a lot of stuff. Everybody brings a bottle of something. So there are not just local connections, but there are connections on the interwebs that you can hit up to get samples for stuff.
So Brett kind of asked a question in regard to that. Brett Williford said, can you trust the samples you're receiving in the swap?
Well, yeah. I mean, they have ratings on Reddit, right? So every time you trade someone, you post the trade and you get bumped up a level. That's the one good thing about Reddit is you're able to get a ranking system for people who trade. So if you are trading with someone with a certain number of trades, they're kind of more justified than the person who you just meet on a Facebook group. I have personally never traded anyone a sample of piss. I mean, I'm sure maybe somebody out there have, but every trade I've ever made on any forum has been totally legit. A person's name is out there, but I think Reddit, the Scotch swap board, like I said, which is also for bourbon and rye, is probably the best place to find trusted traders for that.
Good deal. So a few more things. I didn't want to do all hunting tips for newbies or anything like that because this one kind of goes back into it. And by any chance, if somebody's like just starting into these podcasts, go back and search through. I can't find the podcast number, but go look at the one we did with just Carrie where we talked about this top 10 annoying things in the bourbon world. And this was kind of one of them that Travis Roberts pointed out. For any newbies that are looking to start trading, don't go into a group and try to find Pappy or BTAC and start throwing around Elmer and Old Weller Antique thinking that people are going to do it because you've got 30 bottles to their one. So just don't do that. But another thing that Matt Hirsch said, tips for newbies, is that everybody's palate's different. So don't be afraid. And again, that kind of goes back into the intimidation factor is if you can't taste, bananas Fosters like everybody else can, just like what you like.
Marzipan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would also say to find a store that gets a lot of private barrel picks. To me, that's the new limited release for me because we're chasing after a ton of stuff that everybody else is. And these stores get fantastic barrel picks that are just as good, if not better, than some of the limited releases. So I would do that. And then if you want to get the limited releases, get on Mega Balls for a cheap price.
There you go. And then, so I think with that, we'll kind of drop down on the tips for newbies section. And I think this is kind of going to go to us, and maybe we can learn something from each other here. What are the tips that you should give to veterans that are in this with new people that are coming into it, and either how they should treat stuff or whatever? Because I can tell you right now, I kind of made a senior mistake this week. It was literally somebody on one of the forums said, has anybody seen E.H. Taylor 4-grain yet? And I was like, why are we asking this question every single week? If you knew anything about bourbon, you can look back at the release maps. You know how the data works. It's going to hit a certain state first, usually Atlanta, and then it'll be here 2 to 3 weeks later, right? So I gave a pretty dickhead response. I gave a pretty dickhead response. Don't be wrong, right?
You're like, motherfucker, shut up.
So everybody knows that it's going to hit Atlanta any day now. So just go start circling, right? But anyway, it was the morning. I was a little frustrated, whatever, went off, had a little while. I cooled down and realized I came off like an extreme dickhead, right? So I made a veteran mistake on it. So what other kind of mistake or whatever kind of things do you think tips the veterans should have that are getting into this, or should I say, to the newbies that are getting into this?
Thick skin, thick, gigantic skin covered around you. If you're going to get annoyed with people saying shitty things to your dumb comments, then you're not even ready for it. But I think more importantly to the veterans, we know that everyone has been there at some point. And to me, the reason that I love staying in this hobby is because I love to share with people. I love to see the look on people's faces when they try stuff that is rare and hard to find and awesome. And to me, it's about sharing, right? So I get that people have to start somewhere. I hate that they get in the way of me trying to find stuff. But on the flip side, I know that that's where everybody starts. And in the end, we're in this hobby because we like to share and experience really good stuff. And that's what it's all about. We have to keep that in mind when we, want to talk crap to these newbies. And for the newbies, you just have to keep thick skin and know that some people may be frustrated, but at the end of the day, they would love to end up drinking your really rare bourbon at some point at your house or something.
Yeah, I think that's one what Kerry said is really good. And I think remembering too his whole ladders thing, everyone started off on the bottom rung. And then I think the other thing that I want to add for veterans too, when talking to newbie is, I think a lot of times when people are getting into something, they're just really intimidated and they don't want to come off as being like the new guy in the room. So they come off thinking they know more than they really do. And they're going to say some stupid stuff. And it's going to be really clear they don't know what's going on. So don't get discouraged or just get turned off and not talk to them anymore. Clearly that's the person who needs the most help, and you could probably educate them a little bit. It's try and give them a little bit of knowledge, right? I mean, if they're a dick, they're a dick. But if they're just trying to pretend like they know more than they really do because they're a little bit intimidated, especially knowing maybe you know more about bourbon, just be a little nicer and really help them out. I think that'll go a long way in them and actually admitting that, yeah, I actually don't know what's going on. Can you help me out? And then help them out.
+1, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good comments. Brian, let me hear you. I see your face right now.
Yeah. I mean, those are all good things. I mean, I don't know that any veteran is going to take a tip from any of us. I think what you all have said is right on target. And I mean, when I see a crotch shot, I mean, I just got to look away and be like, okay, that's what they want to do. So you gotta ignore a lot of that, and you gotta try to help a brother out. And Kerry, I like what you said about it's all about sharing. And if you're at a bourbon bar and they've got a good selection and someone's hounding you for what up there is the best, and they're asking about Pappy or whatever it is, and there's 14 things better than Pappy up there, help a brother out and tell them what's up there is better and costs $20 less than that. It's all about sharing, and be kind, brothers.
So this kind of goes to some of you. This kind of goes to some of you bloggers out there, because Thunder Chicken said, don't give politically correct reviews, right? Because a lot of you all, you get, I mean, even Kerry tonight, he got a free sample of Blood Oath, and he gave his honest opinion, right? That's one of the things to the bloggers out there that get all these free samples is, maybe don't lead the blind, but you gotta be truthful and honest about what's actually going out there, because you are the voice that's being resonated throughout the bourbon halls, if you will.
Gross. Stop buying stupid shit. Stop buying stupid stuff. Anyway, go on.
Now here's one, guys. Is there an award for bottle design of the year? Have you guys seen this yet?
Yeah. So is that the one from Limestone?
Yeah, that's the minor case two-year MGP.
It is MGP.
Huh. It is MGP. Oh. It's only 2 years. It's sherry finished, and it's $50.
Huh. I was drinking it. I'm like, man, this is pretty good. I'm excited for Limestone. And then I flipped the back, and I'm like, distilled and barreled in Indiana. What? But they've been around long enough. Why can't they put out their own 2-year release?
They had the smallest still that I've ever seen. literally, that I have ever seen. I mean, it's like a backyard still. And I think they filled their first barrel probably 4 or 5 years ago. And my guess is it just didn't work out, that first barrel. So they're still working on it. They're actually expanding. So with their partnership with Luxco, they've got access to bourbon now. So Steve and Paul Beam are blending, but they haven't sold anything of their own other than their what is it? Their Moon Pie Moonshine, and a couple other brands. So
weren't they on the show Moonshiners for a few episodes?
They might have been. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see when they have their own distillate come through. I'll be interested to see that. But right now, everything's sourced.
Yeah, the bottle looks great, but I'm just thinking $50 for a 2-year MGP.
It's
doesn't quite.
And it's the same. It's the same thing they did with their Limestone limited edition. I mean, they're doing $100 bottle for a 7-year-old bourbon.
The
now
Yellowstone.
They're doing a 50. Yeah, the limited edition Yellowstone. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is good. I mean, I really like it. The sherry takes care of the younger taste of it. But $50, I think people are going to have a hard time with.
Yeah. Yeah, the bottle looks cool. People buy all kinds of stuff in a cool bottle.
I can't imagine any bottle being better. I mean, it's great in the bottle.
If you're buying bourbon or rye that was distilled before LeBron left Cleveland the first time, I don't care what they mix with it.
That should be the litmus test for everything. Yeah.
Don't buy it.
All right, so we went off the rails there a little bit.
What's this podcast about again?
Yeah, really. What? So I'm gonna try to bring you back on the tracks a little bit. So there was a few comments that came in. Travis Roberts said, as you know, for a veteran, try to help out a newbie and share a bottle at cost. You know, bourbon karma. You know, whether it's a real thing or not. Cal Smith said, and I'm accused of this when he says, "Don't say my daily drink is something that's really hard to find." Because when people ask me that, I'm like, well, or 12, because I've got like 30 bottles of it. So.
What a dick.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, but that one guy said suburbia preach. I like that. That was good.
There you go.
That's the thing. I think it's like people are jerks. They're gonna, if somebody's a jerk, they're gonna be a jerk. It doesn't matter if they're at like the high end of bourbon or at the low end of bourbon. They're gonna be annoying no matter what, because
it's just like money.
If someone has an ego, they're gonna have an ego no matter what.
Yeah. But you know, I think the biggest thing is sharing. Like,
sharing is caring.
You know, it is kind of fun to take. Sharing is carry. Well,
that's
caring.
No, sharing is carry. Share with people who don't. Find someone who is not as into bourbon or rye or loves it but doesn't have a big collection. Invite them over and let them try your bad stuff and let them get into the hobby. If anyone makes their way to Atlanta and wants to try any of this Blood 03, I've got samples for you.
What happened to the sharing? I thought we were cracking open the like Sazerac 18 or something.
No.
I think you should just give away your address right here, and we'll just, you can do it. All right, so guys, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna do one last question. Don't go super in depth. Just kind of give me that one answer. So, what was the first limited release bottle that you had that you kind of just became a sucker for FOMO? Go.
Jordan.
So you want a bottle that was good or bad overall?
Well, what was that bottle that was like a limited release bottle that you got and you were like, oh shit, this is the tits, and now I have to go buy everything limited release because I feel like I'm gonna miss out. And that's why we're all like, oh, E.H. Taylor 4 grain, like I hope we get a bottle, when really we're kind of like, maybe.
No doubt, first bottle Stack for me. That's just that's sunk its fangs in me, and it just took hold of me. That was it.
Blakey.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm George T. Stagg. That was so just good. Like that.
What year?
That was probably the 2011. I think it would have been. Okay. What was the high? I think it was like 140.2 because I remember
2012.
Was that 2012?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Because I just remember thinking like, I think I like tried it at a bar the year before. I was like, oh, this is good, and then just getting my own bottle, holding it in my hand was just, thinking I have to grab every single bottle I can after that Which in good thing at that time, it wasn't as hard as it was.
Yeah,
as
you
it
still
is
kind of
now.
could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have like 10 2014 stacks.
Exactly. 2014 stag was mine, so I'm gonna follow along with that stag.
There you go. That's
Comment.
great.
So Brian, Carey, Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mine was
mine-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. Mine, in hindsight, it's a 2006 Weller, which I thought was just phenomenal. But I didn't have the good sense then that things were going to get as tight as they got, because that was still, everything's available. All the limited editions were available in Kentucky at the time. So what got me to realize we were in trouble is the 2012 Four Roses limited edition small batch, which was so great. And that really made the 2013, the 125th anniversary Four Roses limited edition just disappear immediately. And when that wasn't available anywhere, so it's essentially 2013, the fall of 2013 is when it hit me hard that this is real and everything's going to be hard to get. And that's my fear of missing out, because then I had to realize I had to go try to get everything. And so then I was the second guy in line at Wild Turkey when they were at the gift shop, when they were releasing Diamond. And I talked the lady into giving me 6 bottles instead of the maximum 3. And it's horrible. So what do you do?
Did you get one over on them?
Well, it's not horrible. Yeah. Okay, it's not horrible, but it's not worth me taking off work to go to the gift shop on, whatever day that was in April.
I'm pretty sure I could still find you an extra 6 if you're interested.
Yeah, it's still there. So you got the fear of missing out, and then you go and buy, you get a bad birthday bourbon, or you get a bad, diamond, or you get a bad whatever, and it's some business, because I passed up on the Booker's 25th thinking, how can Jim Beam do something good? And I saw bottles and I passed up. And then I had to go get one later after the fact when, it's hard to get. So the fear of missing out kind of gets you in a bind sometimes too.
Yeah, for sure.
I have 3 bottles of Master's Keep sitting in my closet, so I'm right there with you.
I'll trade you a diamond for it.
Yeah, every time I pass it in a store, I'm like, glad I paid that extra $10 when it first released.
Yeah.
For me, I still remember the turning point for me. I called every store in Atlanta when I first started, asked them if they had Pappy or Antique Collection. All of them, laughed at me in some way or another. I ended up at a Total Wine November of 2014. I was looking for the baby Sazerac, the regular Sazerac rye. I asked the guy who was walking around if they had Sazerac rye. He had a bottle of Saz 18 in his hands, and he was looking for shelf for it. So I bought it. I took it home. I opened it up. I tried it, and I still remember thinking this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life to try taste-wise. And since then, that opinion has never changed. To me, Saz 18 was the one that got me started on the rare releases. It's the one that I collect to this day. It's to me, it was a game changer.
It's good. It's great.
Ryan, what about you?
I got some stupid toy going on, ABC toy I stepped on, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my first bottle that I was like, all right, you can taste the difference between a rare release and like a $30 bottle was 2008 Pappy 15. And that kind of was like, all right, there is something to these special releases. Let's go get as many as we can. But I didn't have the foresight to bunker a bunch of them back in the day. I just drank them, and now they're just empty bottles somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm going to read off just a few people that chimed in. Nick Amadeo said Booker's 25th. Andy Kowalczyk, he's a FOMO for Jefferson's Ocean's first voyage. 22 said the Velvet Decanter Jim Beam. Thunder Chicken said that damn Lot B. Benjamin Ward said Jefferson's 18-year. Cusack, Pappy Rye at his first his anniversary dinner made me realize the craziness in life. Let's see. Yeah, and then a few other stags, some other things in there. 2014 William LaRue Weller. pretty standard stuff. So with that, I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having everybody on the round table once again. Thank you, everybody that also joined in to chime in, share your answers. Guys, I want to let you go around the table one more time and give everybody an idea of where you blog, where they can find you on Twitter, your own personal Facebook groups where you can have people come and talk to you, all that sort of good thing. So go ahead. I'll move it over to you first, Gary.
This is Carrie from suburbia.com, SUBOURBIA. Follow me on Twitter at bourbon_gamer, and Facebook. Follow me at Bourbonar Facebook group, and because that's where I'm most active. And yeah, see you guys soon.
Brian.
Yeah, guys, this is I'm at Sippin' Corn at SIPP' corn. That's mostly Twitter, and check out the blog by the same name. And I've got your reviews for the newbies who are looking, and for people who are way too far into it, I've got analysis of old cases. And cheers, everyone.
Cheers, buddy. No one else will say it, but I'll say it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Carrie. I knew you would.
All right, Jordan, you're up.
Sure. This is Jordan, one of three guys who runs breakingbourbon.com. We do reviews, articles, and a daily release calendar. You can find us Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Breaking Bourbon, and also sign up for our monthly newsletter.
And batten cleanup tonight.
Yes.
Blake, make it happen.
I'm Blake at bourboner.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you go to bourboner.com, you'll find I have a breakdown of all the distilleries. So great for new guys who are just getting into the hobby and kind of see which distillery uses which mash bill and what they distill, what proof they distill at, and barrel entry proof and barrel char, all kinds of things that will affect the taste of bourbon and help you better understand as a new guy getting in and as an experienced bourbon drinker, what's in your bottle.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to say thank you again for joining tonight. If you like what you hear, make sure you support the show on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit. You can also follow Bourbon Pursuit on all those great social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Bourbon Pursuit. And this might be the wrap up for what we would call Newbies Month, even though this is actually a month where we have 5 weeks in it. So we're actually gonna fall kind of short of a month, I think. But
yeah, it's pretty standard.
Yeah,
It's Baker's Month.
If for some odd reason I get a hair up my ass that I can think of another kind of newbie topic to have for next week, then we'll try to figure that one out. But Ryan, go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun. Oh, I won't go. Keep going.
I just want to say to the lady who said on Twitter that we said Bourboner too many times, we didn't say it once tonight. There was no reference to the fact that Bourbon R took out the E because he didn't want to be Bourboner. So I just want to say to you, we modified our boner usage. And I want you to be appreciative of that. Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
And that's a wrap. No.
We're done.
No, but I think it's been super fun. Getting back to the basics. Like you said, as old guys or whatever, veterans, we kind of just get blindsided by all the new release or the limited releases and how sitting up on our ladder, up at the top. So it's good to kind of get back to the bottom and to why we got into this hobby. So it's been fun.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, cheers. We'll see everybody next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right. It was funny because there was actually Cusack responded when we were talking about tips to veterans, and he said, "Stop giving advice to strangers in the bourbon aisle." And it just reminded me when we always talked about it. Had been a podcaster a few ago when you guys were talking about going to the Total Wine and feeling like you need to interject your opinion.
Don't buy that.
As soon as you see them holding out a bottle of I'm not going to give us maybe like Woodford or even the Orphan Barrel. It's like, no, there's so many other good options.
there was a guy today at Total Wine who was talking loudly, of course, because he has to talk loudly so everyone can hear him. But he was talking to an employee, and he said, "Man, I came here and I got a bottle of Mister's 10-year, and it was like, I can't believe I paid so low for it. And secondary is like $300. I haven't opened it in 6 months." And I just wanted to punch him in the throat. I'm just sitting there being quiet, like, serious.
Like, when did they add an N to Michener's?
It was the worst pronunciation I've ever heard. It was just Michener's or something. But, you know, the fact that he said, I can't open it, secondary is $300. I want to be like, look, first of all, you overpaid for the 10-year to begin with at retail. Second of all, shut your face. But I'm on that ladder, so I got to just be quiet. And
Second of all, do you know I write a blog? And you can,
I'm kind of
see
a
me
big
at the
deal,
Bourbon Roundtable.
but I keep my mouth shut now because I decided that, and it goes along with that Reddit question of when do you know you're a master? When you're a master, you just keep your mouth shut. And you just listen, and then you notice that they have a misprice on a Old Forester 1920, and you take it to the checkout, and you get out of the store.
And you sprint out. The Old Forester 1920, that's
pretty good.
That's a dark horse for me.
Yeah.
I really like that one. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I had a guy come up and giving me advice in the store one day, and I'm like, his best recommendation was Angel's Envy. He's like, man, you've got to try this Angel's Envy. It's a rye bourbon, and I think it like sailed over the seas and wine cat. I'm like, okay, cool, man.
I combined all marketing pitches into one.
Mixing a few stories there, but all right, I'll give it a shot. He's like, they found it.
Hey, that sounds good.
That were...
When I get my paycheck, I'm gonna come back and buy this.
It's funny because you talk about Angel's Envy. Now all of a sudden, people around here are starting to eat it up because they opened their new distillery.
Oh, really? Is that pretty cool? I saw some pictures from, I forget who it was.
I have yet to go to it. I mean, it looks great. I mean, so I guess they'll start distilling something at some point, and then yesterday was also like the media like invite for the new Bullet distillery.
Yeah, Bullet, Castle and Key. I'm telling you, in 10 years, you guys are going to be so bored of bourbon because everyone's going to have bourbon around there.
No, it's gonna be too much.
Has Castle and Key started filling barrels, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've started filling barrels.
Long time
What
ago.
about Bullet?
They're selling barrels.
They've been filling.
They've been selling barrels like, hey, 8 years from now, you can come get your barrel.
They got so much warehouse space, they don't know what to do with. They're just like,
Yeah, I haven't been to the Bullet place yet. I remember talking to somebody before they had the media preview for it, and I don't really know if I haven't heard anything from the media preview except people just like posted a few pictures and said like, "Oh, that was fun," but they were gonna call it like New Age Distilling, like it's gonna be like an Amazon warehouse for distilling where it's like completely like hands off, everything's automated to the T, right? Like even like robots sitting around like moving the barrels around or something like that.
Hold on, where is this? That's at Bullet?
At Bullet, yeah, in Shelby County.
Really?
So I went to that yesterday, guys, and I mean it's beautiful. I mean Diageo has so much money. I mean it's
Okay, so there you go. Let's hear it firsthand.
Shocking. I mean it shocked my conscience how nice it was. I mean I'd never been in a place so nice.
Wow.
You're like, do you need marble
they found all those
floors?
orphan barrels so they can afford it now.
Yeah.
What was that?
So they found all those orphan barrels so they can afford it now. They just
Well,
sold
true, yeah.
them.
Well, I heard they don't even have
that.
copper pots. They have gold pots that they distill from.
But you're still going to go to Buffalo Trace, right? And you're going to smell that smell when you're driving up. And you're going to see the old equipment and the original warehouses. And you're going to know that it's a difference between that and Bullet making their bullshit stuff. And they could prove me wrong. But like I still feel like the people who've been going at it for so long, you know, you're gonna appreciate the fact that they've been going at it for so long.
Yeah, and
So,
and you're
Brian,
not going to taste anything from Bullet for 8 years. So
Yeah.
you know, they've still got their line, you know, ready to roll. But Yeah, it'll be a while before we taste anything.
Can we do a live review on Bourbon Community Roundtable episode number 482 of the new bullet?
We'll take
the
sound,
first new bullet.
clips from this. Yeah.
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 Guys, Victor's 40. Oh my God, it's so good. All right, I'm going to bed.
All right,
Peace.
later, Carrie.
Yeah.
So, Brian, quick question for you before you jet. Now, what I said, was there any kind of truth to that, where they said it was like called like new age distilling or something, where it was a lot of it was automated and kind of hands off?
I don't know if it was that hands off. I mean, I was talking to some of the guys working the stills, and that part of it's still pretty hands on. As you imagine, I mean, it's more on the wild turkey end, where they've got a computer that monitors, literally everything. So I guess Turkey is the second newest distillery now of the big factory distillers. But it's really no different than that as far as automation goes.
Right.
It's all controlled by computers and 3 guys in a glassed-in room with 40 screens in front of them.
Yeah, I guess that was the new age part that they were hinting at. Then.
Yeah.
Nick Amadio asked, why didn't Diageo try to recreate Stitch Weller magic? And just to kind of answer that for you, Nick, is you can't, because you can't find the same grains. You don't know what the barrels were made out of. It's impossible because there's not the same stills, all that sort of stuff. So if you're wondering why Diageo just can't reopen Stitch Weller and make the same stuff, that's pretty much why.
Yeah. Thousands of different variables.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to get out of here. Enjoyed it, guys.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
I'm out to
All right, guys. Sorry for my
I gotta run
delay
out, too.
and operator error on the technology.
It's all right.
No
Man.
worries.
You made it in. Next time
made it.
you know your password. Now you're not gonna have to worry about.
Well, and I actually had to get on a different device. It was still not working on my original device, but it did work on a different one. So something's screwy.
Oh, well, you
So,
figured it out. That's all
I
that
can't
matters.
explain. Yeah.
All right.
Glad you made it.
All right,
fellas.
guys. Good night.
Yep, and thank you everybody else that joined in. We appreciate it. We're still at 40 viewers, but we're gonna go ahead and stop the broadcast. So we'll.
All right. See ya.
Yep. Until next time.
Later.